Hi, my name is Ms. Reed. I'm going to be your third grade reading and social studies teacher this year. I wanted to take just a bit and go over the standards for third grade reading and social studies. The reading and social studies materials will be working together. Any of the social studies units will all coincide with what is being taught in reading in that particular quarter. So this slideshow is going to be an overview and explanation of the end of year student outcomes. And as I've already stated, the reading standards, or I haven't stated this yet, I'm sorry. Reading standards learned in the previous quarters will continue to be reinforced throughout the entire school year. So any standards that are introduced for reading in the first 9 weeks will still be worked on as we move through the second, third, and fourth 9 weeks. I want to start with reading. So for the first quarter, we have a lot of standards we'll be doing. The first quarter, we're going to be focusing on asking and answering questions, main idea and details, determining the gist and central message, describing characters in a story, determine the meaning of unknown words, write informative texts using research, and writing narrative texts. In the second 9 weeks, we will be focusing on standards that include determine and describe how parts of a text are related, using text features to find information, and describe the relationship between a series of events, scientific concepts, or steps in a procedure. In the third 9 weeks, we will be focusing on using illustrations to understand a text, describing how the author connects ideas in a text, distinguish points of view, this will be between the reader and the narrator, and compare and contrasting themes. In the fourth 9 weeks, we will finish with distinguishing the point of view, this will be between the reader and the author, comparing and contrasting key details of two different texts, and writing opinion pieces supporting a point of view with reasons. For the first standard, it will be RL and RI 3.1, which is to ask and answer questions. In this standard, students will ask and answer questions to demonstrate an understanding of a text. This will include going back into the text for answers. So this means that students will need to be able to locate text evidence to support any answers they give to a question. The next one is RI 3.2, which is main idea and details. For this standard, students will need to determine the main idea of a text. In order to do this, they will find key details and tell how those details support the main idea. RL 3.2 is determine the gist and central message. In this standard, students are going to determine the central message, lesson, or moral of a text. They'll do this by explaining how it's shown using key details from the text, so they will need to get very comfortable going back into a text and finding information or details that are going to help them with their answers. We are moving to RL 3.3, which is describing characters in a text. So this will include students explaining how a character's actions affect the sequence of events. RI and RL 3.4 are the same, they go together. This will be determine the meaning of unknown words. This is a really big concept in third grade and is focused on a lot throughout the year. So students will work on determining the meaning of words in a text, and they'll do this by using words and phrases around the unknown word to figure out the meaning of an unknown word. Now to the writing pieces, there will be 2 in the first 9 weeks. The first one deals with writing an informative text, which is W 3.2. Students will be examining a topic and share ideas and information clearly about this topic. They will do this by organizing their information and ideas around a specific topic to plan and prepare to write. They will introduce their topic and group-related information together. They will develop the topic with facts, definitions, and details. So this goes back with going back into the text to find details and evidence. They will also use linking words and phrases to connect ideas within specific areas of information. Students will provide a concluding statement or section and will revise and edit their writing with help from classmates and the teacher. The next writing piece for the first 9 weeks, will be writing a narrative text, which is W3.3. This will be to write a narrative about a real or imaginary event using descriptive details. Students will organize information and ideas around a topic to plan and prepare to write. They will establish a situation and introduce a narrator and or characters. They'll also organize an event sequence that unfolds naturally, which means that they will need to make sure their story is in sequence of event order. They will also use dialogue, so speaking and descriptions of actions, thoughts, and feelings to develop the experience and events or show the response of characters to situations. They'll use transition words and phrases to show event order. And they will provide a sense of closure. This will be a conclusion paragraph. And that finishes off the first 9 weeks, and we will move into quarter 2. Quarter 2, we will focus on RL 3.5, which is determine and describe how parts of a text are related. So we will be referring to parts of stories, dramas, and poems when writing or speaking about a text. So students will describe how each part builds on earlier sections in that same text. RI 3.5 will be using text features to find information. So students will be using text features and search tools to find information about a given topic. RI 3.3 is the last standard for the third 9 weeks that will be introduced. And this will be to describe the relationship between a series of events, scientific concepts, or steps in a procedure. This will deal with time, sequence, and cause and effect order. We move into the third 9 weeks with RI 3.7 being introduced, which is using illustrations to understand a text. So students will use information learned from illustrations and the words in a text to show an understanding of that text. RI 3.8 is describing how the author connects ideas in a text. So students will show how an author supports certain points that they make. RL 3.6 is going to be distinguishing the point of view, which will be reader versus narrator. So students will focus on the point of view and being able to tell their own point of view and how their point of view on something is different than the narrator's point of view when reading a text. And RL 3.9 is compare and contrast themes. This is the last one that will be introduced in the third 9 weeks. So students will compare and contrast the themes, settings, and plots of stories written by the same author about the same or similar characters. With that, we move into the last few standards that will be introduced in the fourth 9 weeks. This starts with RI 3.6, which is distinguishing point of view. This will be distinguishing the point of view between the reader and the author, which we will talk about more as we go through the year, and distinguishing that the author is different than a narrator. So again, students will need to be able to state their own thoughts about something versus the author's thoughts. RI 3.9 is comparing and contrasting key details of 2 different texts. So students will compare and contrast the most important points and key details that are shown in 2 texts on the exact same topic. And finally, we finish off the fourth 9 weeks in the year with the last piece that's introduced, and that is writing an opinion piece supporting a point of view with reasons. So students will organize information and ideas around a topic to plan and prepare to write. They will introduce the topic or text they're writing about. They will state an opinion and create an organizational structure that lists reasons. Students will provide reasons that support the opinion. The opinion will be their own opinion. Students will also use linking words and phrases to connect opinion and reasons. And they will provide a concluding statement or section. I will now move into just talking about the third grade social studies objectives for the year. So this is just an overview and brief explanation of the third grade social studies objectives and standards. So there will be 6 different topics that we will talk about. In quarter 1, we will talk about culture and geography and environmental literacy. Quarter 2, we will move into economics and financial literacy, which will also be talked about again in quarter 3. Also in quarter 3, we'll talk about history. And in the fourth quarter, we will talk about civics and government. So culture, students will understand how diverse cultures are visible in local and regional communities. This includes comparing languages, foods, and traditions of different cultures in a community, understanding how different groups and communities show artistic expression, explore how different cultures borrow and share from each other. The next one will be geography and environmental literacy. Students will understand the Earth's patterns by using the 5 themes of geography. Students will find locations of places within a local community and region. And they will also compare characteristics, both human and physical, of certain places. And they will understand how people adapt to, change, and protect the environment to meet their needs. And finally, they will summarize the elements that define regions. Oh, I'm sorry, not finally. Now finally, they will also compare regions based on their characteristics. The first part of economics and financial literacy that we will focus on in quarter 2 is understanding how the location of regions affects activity in a market economy. So students will explain how location affects supply and demand in this unit. And they will explain how locations and natural resources influence supply and demand. And then we move into quarter 3 with history. In history, students will understand how events, individuals, and ideas have influenced the history of local and regional communities. This includes explaining key historical events that happened over time in local communities and regions, analyzing the impact of contributions made by historical figures over time, understanding the ideas that helped develop local communities and regions. And then we move into economics and financial literacy, the second part. And in this part, students will understand entrepreneurship in a market economy. So students will explain why people become entrepreneurs. They will give examples of entrepreneurship in different regions in North Carolina. And then we will finally end with civics and government. Students will understand the development, structure, and function of local government in this unit. This includes summarizing the historical development of local government, describing how local government is designed to serve citizens, understanding the 3 branches of government with a focus on local government, and students will also understand how citizens participate in their communities. So this includes understanding how citizens contribute to their community politically, socially, and economically, and understanding how citizens contribute to the well-being of the community. And with that, that is an overview of the third grade reading and social studies units and standards for the 2020-2021 school year. I really look forward to teaching and working with all of the upcoming third graders. I know this is going to be a very weird year, but we are going to make it work. It is going to be amazing, and I'm very excited for the start of this school year.